right up until the sale, I had plan A and plan B. Plan A was that I would sell to them, but in doing that, there were all sorts of things I was putting in place, and I knew, and I could feel it, that just before it came to selling, I would be so weak, because I would have thought, I'm going to make a little bit of money, I'll buy a new car, or I'll take the family on holiday. And if they hadn't have been honourable, if they'd have said, we've re-looked at the numbers and we've kind of re-evaluated, and we think we're just going to knock 20% off, that initial price. To be honest, if I hadn't have had that plan B in mind, I would have probably, all right, then you can have it.
Welcome to Your Mind, Your Business, the podcast that dives into the real grit of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, founder and fitness fanatic, Carina McLeod, and we have a special guest today, David Hurst, former Essex High Sheriff and non-executive director for OnRec. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
Fantastic. So I felt a bit under pressure because there are a lot of roles that, David, you've had. And I think it'll be great, actually, if you start off by sharing a bit to the audience about where you're at, what you're doing today. And then I'm going to go and hit rewind and find out all about your entrepreneurial journey.
Okay. Hi there. So I'm a Deputy Lieutenant of Essex, which means when I'm asked, I represent the monarch for duties in Essex. I've spent the last 12 months as the High Sheriff of Essex, where I was the 844th High Sheriff, a role that goes back 1,000 years. And in that role, I was representing the King, supporting law and order. During the day, I'm currently a non-exec director of OnRec.com, an organisation I founded 25 years ago. And I'm also director of a small property company.
Fantastic. Small property company. I'm not so sure how small, but we'll take that. Very humble. So fantastic. I mean, sounds like you're busy, definitely, in terms of what you're doing and doing things from a service perspective. And also you've got the business that you said that you're a non-executive director of a business that you had, and it's been going for 25 years. So there's going to be a story behind that, I'm sure. So let's hit rewind and go right back to the start of your entrepreneurial journey. What was that point? Did you ever start off and think that you'd be a business owner? I know we've briefly spoken about this, but what was that sort of pivotal moment that really took you on that journey?
I did very early on have paid jobs, very, very early on. But I always regarded my efforts and my time as my business, even though I was just being paid an hourly rate. I had an attitude just to get on and do stuff. I was quite impatient. And as time progressed, I found myself putting money in other people's pockets, which is no problem at all. But I was building their businesses. And I thought, well, really, I ought to be trying to put my efforts into building my own. And that's when I sort of really tried to think of ideas that I could make money out of.
Was your business the first idea, or did you sort of play around with lots of things to start with?
Oh, I had loads of ideas, yes. Some worked, some didn't. Some made a little bit of money. I never lost, not that I can remember, mainly because I never went for anybody else for funding. So the pressure was only on me and what I put in. But out of some of the ideas I had, one or two weren't too bad. And they kind of developed and got better. And
when you say those ideas, were those ideas the company? Because I know that you mentioned about OnRec, and actually that's a company that you were able to sell and exit. Was that your first business, or did you have ventures before that?
Oh, no, I'd had many. I bought my first house when I was 18, 19, did it up and sold it 18 months later, and in those heady days when you could double your money. I mean, it was only a tiny little place and it was scruffy and horrible, and I did all the work myself that I could do. But I doubled my money, then I bought another one, did that up. All the time working elsewhere, doing shift work sometimes. So I was working sometimes at night and then coming back and doing the building work during the day and just grabbing a little bit of sleep. So, but just trying, in hindsight now, I didn't really have any money, so I spent a lot of time making money for the bank because I was borrowing it all. But over time, I bought and sold a few, and I made a little bit more and managed to get a little bit together so I could buy a house, leverage that, and bought another one and did that up. And then, this perhaps probably to your audience will seem a long while ago, but in the 80s the property market stopped. So whilst I just got going and thought I was going to make a bit of money out of it because I'd suddenly figured out, I thought how to do it, the market just froze and stopped. And so I had to regroup and come up with another idea. And I found myself in London working in advertising.
I remember you saying that, in advertising. So that's a kind of bit of a change, right? So you're into real estate and you're getting properties and you're doing them up and you're selling them.
Yeah.
To then go and jump into a role in London in advertising. So is advertising then, was that the route that you then decided to proceed? And
well, I think when I say advertising, I'm really glossing up sales.
Sales.
That's basically what it was.
Yeah.
Well, it was entirely. And I was all right at it. I was all right at it mainly because I was hardworking. I got in early, I worked hard, and I made a bit of money at it. And it tided me over for a couple of years while I started to try and formulate a bit of a plan.
So you're formulating the plan. Is that a plan to then run your own business? Because I guess you had that freedom, right? You're doing up properties, you're doing a bit of shift work, but you're not really bound to a desk as such. And then all of a sudden you're in London on the train every day, commuting. That's kind of a very different. Effectively, you're taking then starting to be in a more corporate environment.
Absolutely. And what I realised was that I had the determination to keep going. I was travelling into London. I live a way out from London, so there were long days, and I was working really hard. And I thought, well, I can work from home. And this was kind of a bit before work from home started. I have the determination. I know what I'm trying to achieve. And then I was able to pick up a couple of contracts selling into magazines, and I was working from home. I had a couple of phone lines, and I just worked from home. That was really quite a successful period. I was operating as a company. I had 2 or 3 customers, and at the same time I was thinking of magazine ideas and publishing ideas, and I was trying them on the side. They worked, maybe 1 or 2 worked a bit, and then I'd picked up a contract for a recruitment magazine, and that went very well, and it was quite lucrative. And then I came up with an idea of a magazine that was actually in a website that was quite a good idea.
So you're in the advertising or sales world, in the corporate world. What was that shift for you to then go, right, I'm going to quit what I'm doing right now. I'm going to go and work from home. And because that's sometimes with a lot of people, it's that when do you make that step? You know that you've got an idea and you believe in that idea, but when do you take that step to say, do you know what, that standard, that oncoming income, I'm going to stop that because I'm going to take that transition now to be my own boss?
I did my best to hedge my bets, so I tried to do both. So I was busy doing the day job whilst working on the ideas in the evening. And it wasn't until the ideas got bigger than the day job that I thought, now I have to make. And it was an easy decision to make because one was doing better and it was becoming successful. So you just work doubly hard. Yeah.
It sounds like there's a theme there in terms of working hard, right? In terms of what you've been able to achieve, almost like double jobs at one point in order to get to that point where you had your own business.
Yeah, it work. I was wondering about that on the train as I came up today, working hard. I wonder what people do all day. I mean, I'm not quite sure what working hard is. I was sending emails at 4:30 this morning. I don't regard that as working hard. I regard that as waking up early and it being light and having something to do. So I do remember when I hit a very difficult patch with OnRec. It was around the time of 9/11, and we had a lot of international customers, and 9/11 happened and the world just stopped buying things. Everybody stopped travelling. All the corporate buyers sat on their hands. Nobody knew really what was going on. And we just had people cancelling everywhere. And it became very apparent that I would have to lose staff very quickly, moved to a smaller premises, and I just extended my working day 2 hours either side. So I got in at 7 in the morning and I didn't finish till 7 at night because I knew I just had to grind my way through it.
And that's because you then had to downsize.
Yeah.
So you've taken this transition where you're then working for your own business and you make your first few hires. What was that like?
Oh, haphazard. The first person I hired was a tremendous chap. In fact, he's gone on to great success. Leor, if you're watching, you're a star. He went on to become a marketing manager for one of the large consultancies in town. Now works as a senior marketing executive in a legal firm. And he kind of found me. He said, "I've just received this new magazine." He said, "There are things wrong with it. There's some typos on the front page, and you should be doing this." And was really quite aggressive on the phone. And turned out he was working as an intern in a recruitment agency. And I don't know quite how, but I said, "Well, if you're so bothered, why don't you come work for me?" And he said, "Yes, all right." So he did.
Oh, wow.
And he turned up and he started working out of my office, which at the time was in my house. In what was a very challenging time. Not launching a business, which was always an adventure, but at the time my wife was extremely poorly. So he, to his absolute credit, was working in an upstairs bedroom of a house where it was full of children and all sorts. So he was my first hire. But he was an immense challenge. I don't think you'll mind me saying, only because he kept saying, "Well, wait, why don't we do this? Why do we do this? This is, because we were just starting. I had an idea, but there was so much opportunity. Why don't we do this as well? I know." And he was a very clever lad, very clever, far cleverer than me. And so then I had to compute these ideas and suggestions. I think, no, don't give me any more. I'm just trying to sort today out, let alone conceptualise what you're presenting. So, and he then went on to do a master's actually and left. And then I had some delightful haphazard recruiting. George, and if George is watching this, everybody loves George. He'd just been sacked from a timber yard when I employed him. He was, I don't know, early 20s, 21 maybe. But he'd done a degree in fine art. And George is a very clever chap, and he could pick up a software program without reading. I couldn't believe people picked up software programs without reading the manual, and he could figure it out. And George joined me as website, IT, database stuff. And now we're 25 years on. Actually, George works in his own company in the office next door to me, and is very successful with his colleagues building and working with websites.
A bit scary making your first hire, because there's a responsibility there, isn't there, when you hire someone that comes on board?
I think it was too chaotic, really, to worry about it too much. I made a couple of dreadful hires. They were just people that answered the advert, to be honest. And nobody else had, so you got the job. That was the truth of it.
Yeah.
And they just weren't suitable. I think I've got much better at it now.
Yeah.
If we jump forward in time, I took over a charity that was failing, and had to recruit a new CEO and senior management. And what I learned from that process is to recruit the very best people you possibly can. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to pay an enormous amount. Sometimes you can find really good people that match your organisation with a requirement for wages that match your ability to pay. You've just got to look in the right place.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that's the part, right? You say it was too chaotic, so you're not really thinking about it, and I guess you're learning as you go along.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And what's tricky is sometimes you're making those mistakes and you've got to get out of them, which is quite it's quite tricky when you. I did used to say, if you come and work for me, stay for 2 weeks, and I'll pay you for 2 weeks. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Yeah. And if I don't like you, or it doesn't work out, thanks for coming. But it's harder in reality, particularly if people. I had one or two early challenges. I've had a flashback of someone who lied about their situation, and they lied that they had a member of their family that had cancer. They knew it resonated because that was something I was dealing with at home, and so I was a soft touch for So they borrowed some money. They went on holiday. They took an extra holiday which they hadn't got holiday pay for. They hadn't got holiday for, and I gave them a loan, and then they never came back.
Wow.
And when you're going so busy as a business owner, I wasn't micromanaging people particularly or at all, and they hadn't really done anything all the time they'd been with us, and but they just they left. They no resignation or anything, and I got a call about 6 months later from the girl's mother who said, can she have a P45? And I said, I didn't know she'd left.
Oh wow, that just showed. That's crazy, and that's terrible, really, when you think about it, right?
Yeah, but you're going so fast. You haven't got time.
No, no, and I guess that's the chaos of managing a business, but just kind of trying to keep going, and I guess you're managing those highs and lows as well at the same time. I guess the business, I mean, it's still going to this day.
It is, yeah, and
so. Definitely a success. So congratulations on growing a business and having a business being going for that long, but also to a point that it came to an exit. I'm guessing it wasn't plain sailing. You mentioned about the challenges of managing people, but I guess to get from A to a point of exit, so there might be some people listening from trying to exit their business. What were those kind of pivotal or big challenges that you kind of know that you want to get to X, but you're getting pushback, or I call them punches, call them other things as well. But let's go with punches.
Yes, yeah. I think the challenge is you've got to take everybody with you. So you're kind of explaining. I'm a big fan of putting your flag in the sand and saying this is where we're going, and telling everybody where we're going, whether it be the people that work for you, people that supply you, your family, your friends, people you bump into, because almost by just saying I'm going over here, you're gravitating, and people are helping you gravitate. I remember I brought the staff in individually when I sold the business. So I started it it launched in February the 14th, 2000. And I sold it at the end of 2006. And I brought one of the guys into the office and to have a chat with him and say that it was being sold and you didn't have to worry about your job, you'll still be employed. And I said, you don't seem surprised. And he said, well, when you recruited me 3 years ago, you told me you were building up to sell it. I thought, well, great.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you're communicating with people what your plans are, generally, that I think that's helpful.
Yeah. And so 6 years, so it was 2000 that you say you started the business, and then you were able to exit in 2006. Did you always, you had a point in your mind, did you know it would be 6 years? Did you, or did that come to you as a surprise?
Complete fluke.
Fluke.
I had odd approaches over those years. I had one very aggressive approach that we were sort of interacting with newspapers and large publishing organisations at the time. And a large publishing organisation, the managing director met me and basically said, we'd like to buy your business. But if you don't sell, we'll set up one in opposition against you.
Whoa.
And we'll bring you down.
Wow.
So.
How did you manage that one?
Go on then. Thanks very much. That's just galvanised me for what I'm doing, because you won't be able to.
I guess that's like rocket fuel for you there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I have someone likened me a bit to a terrier. If I get hold of something, I'm not going to let go, and I'm certainly not going to let someone steal it off me.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's an aggressive offer, definitely. But I guess that was Was that the fuel that made you get, then did that change you slightly in terms of your direction?
I think in a way it made me grow up. I kind of thought, whoa, I'm in with the big boys now. This is, you've got to watch yourself. You've got to watch your back. I wouldn't, you've just got to be on your toes because, I have an expression, it's for the quick and the dead. If you're not, as an entrepreneur, not that I think of myself as an entrepreneur, I think that's something that maybe somebody else calls you. You have to be fleet of foot and paying attention, because the moment you relax and think you've got the hang of it and you're doing well, then your chances are you're probably missing some opportunities and laying yourself vulnerable to change your market, a market aggression, whatever it might be.
It's interesting you say that about the growing up part, because we've had a few guests on that sort of say, when we talk about what would you do again, and a lot of them have sort of said, well, do you know what, I was naive at the start, because it was just like I was going to set up a business. And I can apply the same here, that a lot of people think that many business owners had a master plan, and truth be told, there's no master plan. It was just like had an idea and just that real belief that the idea was going to work. Had that not been the case, would people even have started it, right? So it's interesting that you say about that growing up piece. Did that mean that you started to change the business? Because I'm guessing when you go through chaos, the infrastructure isn't always there. You're running faster than you can introduce things and processes and workflows.
Oh, yes. And the stuff wasn't available. I mean, when I look now and see how easy it is to communicate, this sounds as if I'm like sort of talking about the Stone Age, but you couldn't send emails unless you were sat at your desk. I couldn't access a database to see who my customers were unless I was in the office. I mean, it's just utterly so. In the beginning, we were still using a fax machine. We got orders confirmed by fax. I mean, how Luddite and slow compared with now, where you can just send a PDF and you'll sign it and it's just done. I mean, what a joy! But so just simple processes was so slow and challenging. And also dragging your staff along with you, because you were trying to be innovative and come up with new ways of working they hadn't done before, and that was a challenge. It was a challenge for them. There was a lot of time. I actually employed a trainer, and I thought I need to give my staff more skills, but I thought I can't afford the time for them to be out the office going to classes or something. So I paid for a trainer to come in and sit with them and say, well, what are you trying to do today? Oh, I want to do this one, move this over here, I want to get that. Right, well, I'll tell you what. And they would sit with each individual person and just make their personal workflow better.
I love that.
And that worked quite well.
Wow.
Saved a lot of time. Because I didn't want to train them to do everything. I just want to train them to do that bit, please, quickly. I
was going to say, because this is a thing, right? You've got all these ideas. You strike me as someone, as you say, with lots of ideas, and you want to, where you're going. You want to get to X, but you're being pulled back by everybody because people are working at a different pace. You haven't got the processes or anything. How do you mentioned about the trainer, but how do you manage that sort of internally? Like, you want to make sure that those frustrations don't necessarily come out, or they might do.
I would hope that they didn't come out. I think that I remember they do come out if you. I mean, I remember where our broadband was cut off. BT, in their wisdom, had got a notice to cut off our broadband, not from us, and so they cut off our broadband for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And this was a business that, well, I'm sure anybody out there would appreciate what it's like not to be able to interact with the outside world. And I got so close to the complaints department of BT, the chap that I found that was helpful, I knew his shift pattern, and I was speaking to him every day that his shift pattern started, to try and get it solved. So I'm sure probably the staff will remember then the veins in my neck were kind of going. I was close to losing it just through frustration of it wasn't our fault. We'd done nothing wrong, and yet we were being immensely penalised. It was extremely difficult.
Did that impact your business, like from a sales perspective?
Oh yes, well I'm sure. Yeah, I mean we cobbled together something to get round it. But yes, I mean it wasn't a help.
Yeah.
You know.
You strike me as someone that can balance and maintain that. I'm guessing though that it might come across like that. Are there times, or were there times during that 6-year period where you're growing really rapidly, where you just felt that immense weight on your shoulders and that pressure of running the business?
Yes, I'm sure I was. Yes, I was very well aware of it. Yeah. And unlike you, I'm not sure I necessarily always took the healthy option of working out and going for a run. I have always walked and walked a lot. I've always had border collie dogs, and they need loads of exercise. So I have always been able to get up early and walk, or late at night go for a walk. So I would say that exercise gives you that opportunity just to get a bit of free space, just to, where it is a little quieter, and you can just kind of, well, maybe shout, whatever it might be, shout, formulate a conversation, whatever it might, and just try and settle things back into perspective. But I think I probably drank too much. I probably smoked too much at the time. I doubt. I'm sure I'm probably not unusual in that.
Yeah, definitely. But it's interesting though, the walking part, which is so important these days, and just being able to know and implement strategies so you can just switch off. Because how do you create, and I'm asking this probably because that's where the position I'm in right now, is making sure that you have time for clarity to get you with the ideas of where you get to, and where you said you put your flag in the sand, versus being pulled into the weeds of the operational part.
Yeah, and it's happening. You can feel the suck of it, and you're scrabbling to go in the other direction. I do think it's helpful if you understand that the way where you work best. I am far better first thing in the morning. Earlier the better. I've had some brilliant ideas with jet lag at 3:30 in the morning. When I've had complete clarity of thought. But I've always found it, actually, particularly flying to America and being in America, where you wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and I'm absolutely wired. And I've done some terrific thinking and work at that time. But the same in the UK time. I wake up early, and that's when I seem to be better at problem solving. I then sort of past 10 o'clock, I use that more as time for sorting stuff and interacting with people. But I think maybe choosing the right time to make those decisions and deal with those on your terms. I think I remember being people firing stuff at me and thinking, well, I need to think about that. I don't know. I know what I'll find the answer, but just at this precise moment, I don't know. And I would say, well, let me think about that, and give me 24 hours, and I'll have computed, because it's often the question is it's not as simple as it sounds, because there are ramifications for everything so that might be better for you maybe, but how does that impact on our clients, on the colleagues you work with, or my workload? And I need to just kind of think about that. And it may be that you've had a brilliant idea, and let's absolutely do it, but just let me figure it through. And so, yeah, maybe the opportunity to buy yourself time is, can be helpful.
That's so key, because that's what I can resonate with that just completely with where I am today. If we go back to those earlier days, were you biding time there, or were you just like, I'm going for it, I'm just running?
I'm gung-ho, yeah. Just on all fronts, yes, do it, yeah, whatever. And two, there was, in those early days, there was less to go wrong, really, because it was just it was throwing stuff forward, so it was fine.
Yeah.
When it comes just a little bit more complicated. I mean, I had an office in America, and I had staff working over there as well as in the UK, and you were juggling there was more than one thing at play at any one time. And so what might seem straightforward suggestion from somebody else, it did have ramifications. So and you just need time to think it through. But I mean, I do think as a business person, you get very used to making decisions. I can give you an instant decision on anything. I mean, it give me more time, and it'll probably be a slightly better one, perhaps. If I'll take whatever information you give me right now, and I'll happily go, left or right. That doesn't bother me at all. I've got a friend who's a very lovely man, very intelligent, and he ums and ahs over decisions at great length. I'll give me the info. I'll give you an answer now. But with the caveat that the more info I get, I may change my mind. I remember many years ago, a chap told me about buying a company. If you're ever buying a company, to write down the reasons on a piece of paper why you're doing it, and then turn it over. And then as you proceed through that purchase, if you get to a point and it doesn't feel quite right, turn that paper over again and remind yourself why you're doing it. And if they don't match up, you need to think about, are you still on the same course? Because the where you started from, as new information comes in, that may not, your original aim might not be perhaps match.
That's interesting, that why, which comes into things a lot in terms of managing business. So you've got this, you've got now an office in the US. If we go back to sort of your experience at OnRec, you've obviously gone through a transition, right? The first transition is that startup, that messy phase, and then you're going to a point where you're just growing and scaling the business. Was there any a moment at all where you would question yourself? Because I'm guessing it's new, you've never done it before. Were there any times where you thought, do you know what, I'm not sure I can do this? Or were you always feeling pretty confident that you could take the business from A to Z?
I don't think I was ever overly confident. I think I was determined. Rather than I don't think I would have said, "Oh no, it's all right, I've got this. Don't worry,
done it before.
It's all going to be fine." And I read a book the other day. It's all right. Let's get back. I don't think I ever had. I think I've got it now. I felt I could see where we were going. As we got into the American stuff, by then I was close to. I was getting close to a sale, and. The sale I did, and if anybody's out there, they'll be familiar with the term earnout. Well, if you're not familiar with earnouts, I liken it to get a lawnmower, put it in the middle of the lawn, put it on, start it, put it on full throttle, and leave it, because that's what it's like. Because if you thought you were working hard, if it's a clever earnout and beneficial. You thought you were working hard, then you really work hard, because the way it works is the company's growth. You're incentivized. I was incentivized hugely, and it was very lucrative. But boy, oh boy, did I have to work for it.
So that's when you exited the business. So you were given you sold the company through a buyout. How long was that buyout period? So
the actual earnout was 3 years.
Yeah. 3 years, okay.
And I refer to it as being a hamster on a carpeted wheel.
I think, and those that are listening might think, no, I've had a really smooth experience. But I know that many of people that I've spoken to have had that, because I think there's a different part there. We've spoken about the journey of you growing the business, but you've been the one in charge. You've been the one making all those decisions. So all of a sudden, you're then working with someone who has power in terms of decision making.
Yeah. Yet
there's a stake of yours in that. How did you navigate that?
That was very challenging. I have to say that Doug Emsley, if you're watching this, he was managing director of Tarsus at the time. Bearing in mind, I'd got rather fearful of large organisations, having been approached and kind of bullied. So when he made an approach to purchase the organisation, we got on extremely well, and there was a a contract that was 1.5 inches thick, and I was just prior to signing fearful that I was going to get turned over, and that I would just end up with nothing, no matter what it said. They were a big firm. They had an in-house lawyer, they had in-house finance directors. I have to say we never referred to the contract. They were completely honourable in the entire process, and I was right to worry, but I needn't have, because they were thoroughly honourable, which was a tremendous relief.
But in a way, that the right to worry is good, because it meant that you did your due diligence as well.
Yes. Yeah. But right up until the sale, I had plan A and plan B. Plan A was that I would sell to them, but in doing that, there were all sorts of things I was putting in place, and I knew, and I could feel it, that just before it came to selling, I would be so weak, because I would have thought, I'm going to make a little bit of money. I'll buy a new car, or I'll take the family on holiday, and if they hadn't have been honourable, if they'd have said, actually, Carina, I don't, we've re-looked at the numbers, and we've kind of re-evaluated, and we think we're just going to knock 20% off, that initial price. To be honest, if I hadn't have had that plan B in mind, I would have probably, all right, then you can have it. Whereas I was determined not to let that happen. I had a plan B, and if they didn't sign, we were going to carry on in a slightly different trajectory, because it wouldn't have been so fueled with the backing. Part of the strategy was to really go large in America, and we did a big show in Chicago, but that was off of their back, because they were already launching and had a huge show in America, and I could piggyback on that, but I couldn't have done it on my own, so I would have had to gone a different direction.
That's a huge amount of self-awareness there, to be able to go, right, we're close to a sale. But that part that you say about being weak, because it's almost so close, you've got your hopes, you're like, that car, that house.
Pay off my mortgage, all those debts, all that money I've pumped in at the firm over years, I can get that back.
100%. So then all of a sudden they're like, we're going to just cut it back. You're almost like, just give me anything at that point. Yeah. So that's that. I mean, just note taking. No, it is a huge thing to be aware of, because I think that's where you could completely be bitten. And thankfully it was that didn't happen. But the fact that you had a plan A and plan B sounds like some solid advice for anyone that's listening today.
Yeah, it worked for me.
Yeah.
And also gave me the mental security. Just to try and hold strong, actually, because you can't, you're forward thinking. That's your job. So if someone says they're going to give you some money that you weren't going to have before, and you are going to do what you said you were going to do, well, what are you going to do then? What are you, and actually, what are you going to do with it? Because you've got some money that you didn't have before. What are you going to do with it then? What do you do with it? All I'd known was ploughing it into the business that I had. I've always had a fear of frittering money away. I kind of believe if you've got a bit of money together, that it's really important to try and keep that lump together.
Yeah.
And not spend it on stuff that isn't.
Just anything.
Which would be easy to do.
100%. So you're coming close to this date of knowing that you're going to sell it, and you're managing, you've got your plan A and plan B. Were there any moments where you thought, I've got to pinch myself, or that you were just getting stressed, sleepless nights and everything? Because it's almost like that anticipation that's going on. How did you manage that?
Well, I'm not sure I managed it. I vividly remember going up and selling the company at that day. And I don't know what you call them. Do you ever get your eye twitch? Sometimes when you're a bit tired, you're a bit stressed. Yeah. Well, I could actually feel it. They were all doing it. It was the top and the bottom. It was the most bizarre sensation. I thought, I wonder if anybody else could see this. It must be. Yeah. So I guess I was pretty stressed. Wow. I was up in these London offices, and I arrived, and Doug met me, and he said, have you brought your lawyers with you? And I went, no. And have you brought your accountants with you? I went, no. Do I need them? He said, no, you don't need them. Most people do. I said, well, I'll be all right. So I sat with their lawyer, went through the contract, sat with their finance director, and did the deal. And they said it's really close to Christmas, so we've signed the deal, but you're not going to get your money till January now because the banks have shut. And so I'd sold the company. I went home on the train, and I went home. My wife and daughters were out Christmas shopping, and I sat in the kitchen at home and thought, oh, well done, great. You sold the company. You haven't got any money yet. Let's hope this all works out.
Wow, that's kind of a crazy one, because I can imagine I can't imagine, but I sort of can imagine what that journey felt like, of like, you've got this goal, you've got your 6 years, you're like, we're going for it. I know where we're going to go. You sell the business, you haven't had to go to plan B. And then there's almost this like, okay, now I've done it. There's the worry about the money, but there's also this other part there of, I think you were sort of alluding to earlier, is, okay, great, you've got the money now. So what does that mean?
Yeah, well, you've got your job in hand, which is to the very big challenge of working with someone who's now your boss, and they are making corporate decisions about something you know everything about, and they're not making very good ones. And you are very mindful of going, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that either. But you can't keep saying that. And after a while you go, well, you bought it, it's yours, you do what you think. That's fine. Best of luck to you.
I bet that's hard, because it is like your baby, isn't it? Like, you've
biting
grown
your lip the entire time.
Yeah.
It's very challenging.
And so then you have your earnout, you do your 3 years. You didn't stop there though, did you?
Well, no. Well, to my surprise, I thought they would then kick me out the door. But they kept me on as a consultant for a long while afterwards. And I did my best to offer my help and support. And I think it was probably wise. I always made the business about the business, not about me. But I did know a lot of people in the industry, and keeping me on board. I did have offers after I sold it, because I was working for them as a consultant, I felt that would be wrong. That they were honourable, and there was no way I was going to start up something against them or anything like that. It just wouldn't have been. And I had some offers that were a bit borderline, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. It's not for me. So I did wonder if I could be entrepreneurial in the charity environment. And I'd been involved in helping charities and raising money for charities for a long while in an organisation called Round Table. And we'd do a fireworks display each year. We'd raise money and give it to local charities. And I really enjoyed the process of evaluating the charities and then getting my colleagues to agree to give them the money. I then found myself on the board of something called the Southend Community Fund, which was set up by a chap called Howard Briggs, who was a mayor of Southend. And that was he raised money, and there was a pot of money, and the interest was spent on charities in Southend. I'm now the chair of that, and we've got about 600,000 invested, and we donate money each year to local charities. So I was interested in charities. I was interested in how they worked, and I chaired an organisation, and it had gone through a bit of a rough time, and I kind of figured it out and settled everybody down. And just towards the end of it, a chap came up to me and he said, I've been running a charity for 30 years. It's going wrong. It's making me ill. I don't know how to fix it. Will you take it over? And I said, yes. And it had 43 staff, $1.5 million turnover, and it was going skint.
Right.
So that was another. I said I'll do a year as trustee so I can understand what I'm getting into, and then I'll take over and I'll do 4 years as chairman of trustee. And I'm pleased to report now, I don't know, 10 years on, it's flourishing and doing really well.
Fantastic, and congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
I love that, because it's not just a lot of people that think when somebody's growing a business to sell it, it's all about the money. But often it's all about almost the challenge in getting your business from A to Z, right? And then being able to give back to charities and supporting charities as well, which you've been able to do, which is fantastic. Was that ever the goal, like, or was it always a challenge for you, as in you knew that determination that you could make it happen?
I think I was interested to test myself to see if, because I don't think you can call yourself an entrepreneur. I think that's for somebody else to do, as I mentioned. But I wondered, but I do kind of think if maybe you've done something more than once, maybe that you start to earn the title maybe of entrepreneur, and the chance to do it in the charity environment and apply it's pretty straightforward logic, but kind of, and I love fixing things. I do like fixing things. So the chance of taking over something that I figured could be fixed, that was a challenge that really just suited me. And I think it's your duty as a member of society. If you're half decent at work, or just, well, not even that. I think we should all try and help somebody else. That kind of, if you just shared the love a bit more, and you'll be amazed who you meet, what you learn, just share the love, help somebody else.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because we can get a bit greedy in the world, and especially from, when a lot of people assume that when you run a business you're greedy, but it's not always clear cut. You're not sitting there on gold. There's a lot more that goes into it,
and it's usually very well earned. I think I think you just have to be mindful. I mean, you don't work in the same way to other people. You don't build up a pension like the way that somebody might if they had a solid, secure job. So you're building that in what you're doing. So it might look like a lot, but actually by comparison, it's the. I think the other thing is it really is good if you just kind of keep a bit quiet about it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear how successful you've been at selling your company. That's just, they're more interested to hear if you've been able to turn a charity around.
Yeah.
And that is more interesting.
But that's mindful in itself. Like we spoke about the self-awareness, and that's mindful in knowing that it's not something to shout about, but actually, and then the giving back, which of course you're doing in many, many ways now, due to, having the role as High Sheriff and everything. So if we were to just go back to, because all of this is I love your story, and I love the fact that you've been able to grow a business and then go into the point where you're helping charities turn things around. And I love your self-awareness and how humble you are. If you were to go back to the start and give any advice to that David starting out, what would that advice be?
I think, trust your instincts, absolutely. I think be inquisitive, learn as much as you can, talk to as many people as you can. Don't think you know everything. Just try and absorb as much as possible, and I think be prepared to change tack, because markets change. Not your fault, nothing you've done, but the markets change, and you need to adapt with them, or else you'll be toast. But I think overall, I think keep your head down, work hard, don't give up. Yeah.
Do you have any regrets of anything you've done, or you feel that all learnings?
All learnings. I think I am an optimist, so I kind of. I've made some whopping mistakes, of course. I think you're allowed to make mistakes. I think it's just don't make them again. That's I think isn't that the definition of stupidity? Making the same mistake twice. So yes, I've made mistakes, but I've tried to think about how they happened and to not make the same mistake again.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, David. You've been an absolutely awesome guest for sharing your story. I feel like just talking with you for an hour is just not enough, because I know that there's so much more behind it. But hopefully our listeners today can sort of understand more about your journey and resonate with some elements of it. And I do want to say, you mentioned the word entrepreneur. I do want to, you say someone else can call you that. So I am going to call you an entrepreneur, because you definitely are, in terms of just your mindset and the way you've been able to create a business. And I know you've got other projects and you work in the charity sector and everything. So, yeah, it's just been great to have the opportunity to talk to you and hear your story, because I find it really inspiring. I know we've spoken about your story before, and just congratulations and thank you for sharing today.
Well, thank you. It's been a treat. I mean, we're talking about my favourite subject.
Thank you, Thank you ever so much, and thank you everyone for listening today. Love this episode? Don't miss out. Hit subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Instagram as we continue to keep it real.